Quote Love Unquote by New Amsterdam. Chapter 19. How do you wake up on a new day, remembering that someone loves you? It's the sort of thing that Kirishima always used to fantasize about. Specifically, he'd fantasize about waking up to Bakugou Katsuki in bed, inexplicably dressed in his old UA costume of tight jeans and leather jacket, looking at him with challenging eyes and a fond smile. Reality doesn't quite match up. As it turns out, he wakes up the same as on any other day. Kirishima's dreams are a whitewashed blur of affection and terror. He tumbles out of bed and onto the floor, dragging the blankets and sheets with him. When he pulls himself back up, he's looking down at an empty bed, the fitted sheet slightly indented to show the space where Bakugou had slept. "What?" Bakugou had scoffed, looking up at Kirishima with a challenging smile after a few minutes' silence. Too chicken shit to say it back? Kirishima had leaned forward and kissed him instead, crawled on top of Bakugou like he could melt against him, live inside of him if he tried hard enough. Bakugou had accepted his kisses, dug his fingers into Kirishima's hair, and moaned against his mouth. Somehow, they said way more than they ever managed with words. And maybe it was unfair, because Kirishima knew this would be a distraction, but Bakugou didn't press the issue either. When they fell asleep, Kirishima hadn't said anything back. Kirishima shakes his head as he wanders into the bathroom. The door separating the sink from the bath and toilet is locked, the sound of running water slightly muffled. Kirishima runs a hand over his face and reaches for his toothbrush. He's halfway through his mental count to 30, running the brush over pointed teeth, when he realizes who's showering in his bathroom. Bakugou. He spits the toothpaste in his sink when he calls out, the name becoming gargled. The water doesn't stop running. "What?" Kirishima swallows, a burn of spearmint against his throat. He chuckles. "Just making sure it's you." Bakugou scoffs. "No, dumbass. It's a fucking burglar using your shower." "As long as he leaves my record collection alone, I'm okay with that," Kirishima replies. There's the thudding sound of Bakugou's impatience, and then only running water. Kirishima finishes with his teeth, and then runs his hand through his lank red hair. "Hey, Bakugou." "What?" "You're not mad, are you?" Kirishima's looking at himself in the mirror while he speaks, his sleep-mussed hair, wide eyes, and uncertain expression. It's easier to talk honestly when he can face Bakugou instead of himself. "I'm always mad," Bakugou says back, so fast it's like a joke. Kirishima smiles wanly. "Well, yeah, but are you mad at me?" "Why?" Bakugou's voice is rough, careless. "Because you told me you loved me and I didn't say it back. I stared at you for what seemed like forever, and then you rolled your eyes and shook your head and didn't say anything else. Because I think I do love you more than I've ever loved anyone, but the idea of saying that scares the shit out of me, even though I know you think the same way. I'm not sure if I deserve the love you're offering me, but I want it so bad. Because of what you said last night." Kirishima hears the squeak of the shower faucet being turned off, the wet pat, pat, pat of Bakugou's footsteps. The door opens, revealing Bakugou with one of Kirishima's red and black striped towels around his waist, water dripping from his bare arms and chest as he leans in the doorframe. Bakugou smiles at him, fierce and challenging. "You're running too far ahead of me," he says. "I had to get the lead back somehow." "Huh? Are they running a race?" Bakugou leans forward and flicks Kirishima's nose. "I'm the best at everything I do. If I'm gonna be someone's boyfriend, I'm gonna be the best at it. If you haven't figured your shit out yet, who cares? You'll catch up." He's not mad. He wears his love as easily as his arrogance, wrapped around him like a shield against the world. He's beautiful, dyed with colors of the sunrise after a hot shower. Kirishima chokes out a laugh. "Okay, but I still think you're gonna be mad at me." Bakugou's expression goes from sly to suspicious. "Why?" Wordlessly, Kirishima points towards the foggy bathroom mirror. Bakugou turns and looks. Blinks. And then looks again. Wipes the mirror down with one hand. And then looks a third time. Turns back to Kirishima very slowly. Kirishima. Yes? There's hair dye in your shampoo. Conditioner, but yeah, there is. Red hair dye. Just a drop, Kirishima says quickly. Enough to keep the color fresh. Because you dye your hair red. Kirishima pats his head self-consciously, as though the black roots will suddenly be visible. The drop is enough to keep his hair a color Crimson Chevalier would be proud of. But for Bakugou... I take it back, Bakugou says through gritted teeth. I'm gonna fucking kill you, now. For Bakugou, the little red hair dye has turned his pale blonde hair a dusty, startling pink. Sero sits on the couch in Riot's living room and laughs uproariously. There are tears gathering in the corner of his eyes as he points at Bakugou. Your hair! Kirishima can't help but join him, doubled over as he has been ever since he ran from Bakugou's first attempt to murder him. Bakugou sits on one of the kitchen stools, arms crossed over his chest, as he likely considers how to kill both his boyfriend and manager while making it look like an accident. The effect of his ferocious scowl is ruined somewhat by his now dry, rose-colored hair. Oh god, Sero wheezes. I guess I gotta call Aoyama, see what he can do about this. Yeah, Bakugou says scathingly. You do that. Don't be like that, Kirishima says, trying to sound appeasing. I think it looks kinda cute. Cute? Bakugou sounds like a tea kettle boiling. I'm not fucking cute like that, airhead. He throws a hand towards the hallway, where Ashido just happens to be walking in. Hey! Sero and Kirishima both say sharply. It's fine, Ashido says with a yawn. She walks over to Bakugou and ruffles his hair. Why are you stealing my look, Blasty? I'll kill you! Bakugou bursts up from his chair, but is met with only laughter. Kirishima comes up from behind him, drapes an arm around his waist. It'll be okay, he promises. Bakugou looks at him through narrowed eyes. Fucking hair dye. Should have fucking realized. He's glaring at Kirishima fiercely. Not like he's angry, but like he's trying to figure something out. Like he's remembering something. Kirishima grimaces. He tries not to make a big thing of it, but his red hair has always been a part of who he is. Who he wants to be. Not the pathetic kid with nothing to offer, who'd been too scared to chase his dreams and too nondescript to matter. Most of all, he doesn't want Bakugou seeing him that way. Don't worry, Kirishima says, leaning his chin against Bakugou's shoulder. You're still manly and tough and way hot. Of course I am, Bakugou scoffs. And also really cute. Die. Kirishima wrote the lyrics to this song on the night he left Bakugou in Miyakojima, thinking about how he felt and what that meant, after pretending for so long. After hearing Bakugou says that he loves him, Kirishima takes another day or two to tweak the lyrics. It all has to fit together perfectly, to say exactly what he means it to. I want to shoot at the end of the week, Kayama says, rapping one red lacquered nail against her desk. Time is money, and we have to strike while the iron is hot. That's a lot of metaphors, Kayama-san, Jiro says. But somehow, they pull it together. Riot's new single, their first music video, and the first song on which Kirishima and Ashido will sing together equally. The dawn of a brand new era for their band. The four of them go through several hours worth of styling for the video. Winter is truly setting in now, and in the bare-walled warehouse they shiver in their street clothes. The camera crews have already set up. The instruments are set. Hello, a deep voice says, and when Kirishima looks up, he's met by a pair of dark eyes and a gaunt-looking face. "Shinso, I'm directing." He's dressed in a baggy black knit sweater, his purple hair messy and unkempt. He looks like he just rolled out of bed, but something about his voice is sure and certain. Kirishima thinks that they can leave this in his hands, definitely. While he's been working on the song, Kaminari has taken the lead on the video's concept. He greets Shinso like an old friend, throwing an arm around his shoulders, even as Shinso winces at the contact. "We talked on the phone a bunch," Kaminari explains to the other three. "Shinso here's the real deal. He's gonna make us one of those awesome artsy videos." Shinso shakes off both the praise and Kaminari's grip. "We better get ready to get started soon. We're just waiting on our star." Kirishima blinks. He hadn't realized that anyone other than the four of them were going to be in the video. He probably should have paid more attention to Kaminari's planning. "It'll be great," Kaminari is saying excitedly, perhaps in response to Kirishima's confused expression. "The hottest star on the planet, plus our music, plus Shinso directing? It can't get any better." It's a bit too revealing about where his mind has been, but when Kirishima hears Kaminari describe the star, he's prepared for Bakugou to walk into the warehouse. Instead, he hears the tap, tap, tap of a more delicate gait as a familiar woman rounds the corner. "Everyone," Yaoyorozu Momo calls out. "Sorry to keep you waiting." "Young Momo!" Kaminari calls out, running over to wrap her in a hug. It's been a while since I've seen her. She'd video chatted with them a couple of times while they were on tour, showed up to a few shows when she was in the area. Jiro and Kaminari always seem to be texting her. She steps back from Kaminari and waves at the rest of them. She's wearing a silky blush-colored blouse, tucked into tight, high-waisted black shorts. Her sneakers are white and rose gold, her dark hair loose and wavy around her shoulders. She's beautiful, dazzling. Jiro moves towards her, and Yaoyorozu murmurs a quiet, "Kyoka-san," before leaning in and kissing Jiro on either cheek. "Oh," Kirishima says. Ashido elbows him in the side, and rolls her eyes at him. "Anyway," Shinso was saying, "we've had to make some last-minute adjustments, but we can shoot through with you four first, and then with the stunts after." Stunts? Kirishima really should have been paying more attention to the planning. Kaminari worked with Aoyama on their wardrobes, everyone in black and white, accented by soft pastel shades. Kirishima wears a white tank top over pink skinny jeans, while Ashido wears a cropped seafoam top that reveals the diamond piercing on her navel. That, like Kirishima's new ear piercings, is a souvenir from their time with Amajiki. They'd all gone out together, after Amajiki mentioned that he got a new piercing to commemorate the completion of a tour. The instruments are set up on the roof of the warehouse. Two mic stands face each other, with the drums and Jiro's bass completing the square, of the lines facing inwards. Jiro's dressed in pale peach, her shirt dipping off one shoulder to reveal her pale skin. Kaminari is in lavender, laughing as he stands next to the freestanding drums. "We'll do a couple takes," Shinso is saying. "Ashido, Kirishima, you two face each other as you're singing. For now, let's just play it through." It's a special song, one that Kirishima has been working on for a long time, one that wouldn't work without both him and Ashido. He'd written it as a dare to himself, that if he could see it through and perform it, it would mean he'd finally gotten over his fears. Shinso speaks in a low, firm voice. His instructions are clear and direct, and it's easy to just follow along with what he's saying, without thinking too hard about it. Kaminari starts off first, slamming out a beat on the drums. Then, before anyone else comes in, Kirishima starts to sing. It takes courage to do a lot of things, to be a musician in the public eye, to date a man like Bakugou Katsuki, to date a man at all. He's seen how Amajiki and Togata live with each other, clearly intimate friends, but careful never to press the boundaries of that when other people were around. In a lot of ways, Kirishima is lucky. He was out to the world before he could ever second-guess himself about it. Now, he doesn't have to hide how he feels about the person who means the most to him. Most of all, he can push himself further because there's someone ahead of him, behind him, beside him, always pushing and pulling him to be more than he dared to before. He sings all his feelings into the song, strumming along on a black and white electric guitar. He barely notices when Ashido's voice joins his, and then when he stops to let her take on the second verse. For Ashido, it's a different feeling. The beginnings of an emotion, wanting to be pushed even further. A spark that's ready to burst into a full-blown flame. She's radiant as she sings, pale pink hair flying around her face, lips curving around the words like she's casting a spell. Jiro leans in and back with the movement of the music, her notes keeping the rest of them steady. Kirishima sings again. Sings about how writing love songs is like taking a leap, letting yourself fall, giving your feelings form and trusting them to catch you. All of this, everything about his life, has become one big game of chicken. He has to keep going, keep pushing, because the minute he stops and thinks about it, he'll fall straight down. Through it all, he imagines a pair of burning red eyes, taunting him, saying, "Keep going, I dare you." By the time they're done, they've broken the song down into 1,000 parts and played each of them 100 times. Shinso wants every angle of their performance, tells them how to school their expressions and move their hands. Kirishima sits back on the stool, exhausted. Performing takes energy and effort, leaving him feeling drained. But it doesn't feel like work the same way that filming does. He has no idea how Bakugou does this day in and day out. Throwing in the towel already? Kirishima whips around, sees the challenging eyes and fond sneer of his boyfriend. Bakugou's hair is still a shade of pink, but he isn't bashful about that in the slightest. He's dressed in a black shirt and loose white pants. Rose sneakers a perfect match to Yaoyorozu's. What are you doing here? Bakugou's lips quirk, and Kirishima is sure that his intelligence is about to be insulted. But then Bakugou just leans in close. You thought you could feature a celebrity in your first music video and leave me out, huh? He looks so arrogant, so sure, and Kirishima wants to wrap Bakugou up in his arms and kiss him silly. Instead, he shrugs. Kaminari's the one planning the music video. I'm not good with this kind of stuff. Everyone says I don't have good taste. Your sheets are red and black tiger print, Jiro reminds him, walking by while sipping from a water bottle. Yo, Bakugou. Bakugou gives Jiro a nod of greeting, then scoffs at Kirishima. I've seen your room. Your taste is shit. Ashido's just as bad, Jiro sighs. If you let the two of them loose, it would all be an animal prints and clashing pastels. Much as I hate to admit it, Kaminari's pretty good with this stuff. Go figure, Bakugou mutters. Excuse me, Kaminari says, making his way over and jabbing a finger at Bakugou's chest. I invited you, didn't I? Only after I heard about it from Ponytail, Bakugou snipes back. I had to rework the whole concept, Kaminari says. I had storyboards, Bakugou. Storyboards. And then you had to go all jealous boyfriend on me. You want your video to be the best, then you put the best in it. It's not fucking rocket science. Bakugou huffs, leaning back with his arms crossed over his chest. His face reddens a bit, cheeks as pink as his hair. You were jealous? Kirishima says, out of the corner of his mouth. Bakugou's frown deepens. You don't tell me this important shit and then you expect me to sit it out? No way. Ashido and Yaoyorozu have walked over, and now Kirishima can see the deliberate coordination of Yaoyorozu and Bakugou's outfits. I'm glad you're here, Bakugou-san, Yaoyorozu says. This would be all a bit much to do alone. Wait, Kirishima says. What exactly are you doing? At first, a lot of the filming is just Yaoyorozu and Bakugou, posing on the edge of the roof, overlooking the city. Fans are used to blow fake wind through their hair. Yayozuru curls her dark locks around her fingers, looking uncertain. Bakugou bites down on his lower lip, like he's holding something back. They walk past each other, not making eye contact or really seeing each other at all. Then, a stunt crew brings out levers and harnesses. They hook up both Yayozuru and Bakugou, each of them stepping out onto the edge of the roof. "Wait," Kirishima says. "Are they going to jump?" "Quiet on set," Shinso orders. Kirishima can only watch in silence as Yayozuru lets herself fall backwards off the roof, and Shinso films her falling. Then, it's Bakugou's turn. His face shines with determination, then goes carefully blank. He jumps off the roof head first. Kirishima's heart clenches, even as the rigging holding Bakugou grows taut. When the many takes are over, Bakugou steps towards Kirishima with a smirk. "What, were you worried?" "A little warning would have been nice," Kirishima admits. "But I know you can handle yourself." Bakugou lips over his lips, shoving Kirishima playfully. "You better." The final scene of filming is inside the warehouse, where a bunch of extras have gathered. There's a dance party going on. Fog machines are filling the place with smoke. Against the smoke, lights project pink and green, and peach and yellow and purple lights. Low music plays in the background, the basic beat of Riot's song. "You four get in the middle and dance," Shinso says, while pointing out to the crowd where to arrange the cameras. "Ashido, you and Kaminari first. Then we'll focus on Jiro and Kirishima." Ashido and Kirishima are usually on the same wavelength, and when they dance, that effect is multiplied. Kaminari puts his hands on Ashido's hips, and she rocks back against him. She lifts her arms over her head, and he runs his hands up her sides. Their faces turn towards each other. The energy between them is electric, sparking and alive. They dance across the line between sensual and sexual. Kaminari's lips pressing against Ashido's throat as the two of them rock their hips in time. Kaminari splays one of his hands across Ashido's bare stomach, the jewel of her piercing glimmering under the strobe lights. Bakugou and Kirishima are leaning against a wall, observing. "You're lucky soy sauce didn't insist on coming," Bakugou mutters. Kirishima frowns. Ashido can do what she wants. Besides, she and Kaminari aren't like that. They just like dancing, and they're having fun. Sero never struck him as the jealous type, anyway. Ashido would never put up with that. But things are still so weird between the two of them, and Kirishima's never worked up the courage to ask her about that time he'd seen them making out. Are they together, or do they want to be? It's not like Ashido to keep that part of her life a secret from the rest of them. Still, Kirishima has some sympathy for the fact that Sero must have watched Ashido like this a lot. All eyes on her, everyone drawn to her presence. It's hard to feel special to someone like that. "Jiro, Kirishima," Shinso is calling out. "You're up." Jiro's never been one for public displays. She's Ashido's opposite in that way. Cool and reserved, where Ashido is warm and open. Kirishima's surprised when Jiro smiles wanly at him, grabs his hand and pulls him towards the dance floor. They let Shinso arrange them. They move carefully in interlocking circles, sometimes facing each other, and sometimes looking away. They aren't dancing together, the way Ashido and Kaminari had been. Instead, they're like planets in orbit, caught in the same gravity, but interacting directly with each other. Kirishima lets himself get lost in the beat, even though it's awkward when he's being stopped every few moments, when Shinso directs Jiro to push his tank top up to bare his abs. He loses track of Shinso's direction for just a moment, and that's when Yayozuru enters the scene. She walks up to Jiro with calculated intent, hips swaying, not quite dancing. She extends an arm towards Jiro, grabs her hand, and pulls her away from Kirishima. She tips Jiro's chin up and kisses her on the lips. Ashido wraps her arm around Yayozuru's neck, standing up on her tiptoes to reach. They're still swaying in time to the music, Even this made into part of the dance. Kirishima doesn't realize he's stopped dancing, that he's gaping, until Shinso calls out an impatient, "Cut." He runs a hand through his already messy hair. "Kirishima," he says shortly, "you're supposed to keep moving." I didn't realize. Kaminari comes up beside Shinso, raises both his brows at Kirishima. "Hey, remember when you explained what you wanted this song to mean to us?" Kirishima nods. He often talks through ideas with the others to make sure they're coming across the right way. "Yeah, of course. It's a song about..." He trails off, acutely aware that Bakugou is still standing only a few feet away. He swallows. "It's a song about having the courage to love someone." "Exactly," Kaminari says, shooting finger guns Kirishima's way. "So what's more courageous than this? The love story of my two favorite ladies." Ashido reaches over to pinch him in the side, and he amends. "Ouch! You're my favorite too, Ashido." "It's not a love story," Jiro says quickly. "We're playing characters, Kaminari." "Of course," Yayozuru says, blushing delicately. She really is an incredible actress, because the fierce, determined woman from a moment ago is gone completely now. "Anyway, if you didn't keep running out in band meetings to make out with your boyfriend, you'd know all this," Kaminari finishes off. He shoots Kirishima a toothy grin. Kirishima lifts his hands, smiling apologetically. "Message received. I'll pay better attention from now on." "And you approve?" Kaminari says. "We're not doing this over if he doesn't," Shinso puts in. "Of course I approve," Kirishima bursts out. "It's awesome. I mean, when the whole thing with me and Bakugou happened, he took most of the heat for coming out since no one really cared about me, and now this feels like something we can actually do. That's, our brand, you know?" Kaminari throws an arm over his shoulders. "I knew you'd feel that way, bro. We're gonna make a masterpiece of gay cinema. Here." "It's a music video," Shinso reminds him flatly. "Let's not get carried away." Maybe it's Kirishima's imagination, but there's something sad, almost longing, in Shinso's voice. It's another 3 takes of Jiro and Kirishima dancing, of Yayozuru pulling Jiro in and kissing her senseless. It's hard to keep moving to Shinso's instructions when he wants to watch, when he wants to unpack all the emotions he sees in Jiro's face and in her eyes. She's always been so quiet about her preferences, never hiding them, but never broadcasting them either. He knows Jiro likes Yayozuru. He's always gotten the feeling that Yayozuru likes her too. He winces in sympathy. If they've gotten this far without confessing, they're in the same boat Bakugou and Kirishima were in not too long ago. He barely registers it when a familiar hand grabs his wrist, spins him around. Bakugou is standing there, not smiling. There's a predatory gleam in his eye, a frustration in the way his lips curl. "Our turn," he whispers, just before he grabs the neck of Kirishima's tank top and pulls him in for a kiss. It's not the first time they've kissed in front of a camera, but this time Kirishima barely thinks about that. Instead, he's looking into Bakugou's mouth, letting his arms rest against Bakugou's shoulders. It's a long kiss, lazy and satisfying. "Guys!" Kaminari whines at them. "That was not in the plan." "Leave it," Shinso says, though he's frowning. "I think I can work with this." The 6 of them go out to eat afterwards. Shinso begs off, though Kaminari invites him along as well. As he's leaving, hands tucked into his pockets, he frowns at Bakugou, eyes narrowing. "Dude," Kaminari says, nudging Bakugou, "does everyone hate you?" Bakugou stomps on Kaminari's foot. "Fuck if I care." Yayozuru suggests they eat a conveyor belt sushi place, a little hole in the wall that she excitedly calls delightful. It's late enough that there's not much of a crowd, and the 6 of them sit at the counter and order beers and soda and pour themselves green tea. "So," Bakugou says, staring at Yaoyorozu over the rim of his glass. "How long you been thinking about doing this, Ponytail?" Kirishima isn't sure what he's getting at, but from the way Yaoyorozu straightens, she understands Bakugou's words. "It's something we all have to think about," she says, tracing the rim of her teacup with one slim finger. "I've been in the spotlight for as long as I can remember, so when I started having feelings for other women, it wasn't something I could be open about." Eijirou is quiet, beside her, but she reaches out and lays a hand on top of Yaoyorozu's. Yaoyorozu smiles at her gratefully. "What changed?" Ashido prompts. Yaoyorozu smiles, glancing at Bakugou. "Would you mind if I said it was you, Bakugou-san? After you were so open about your relationship with Kirishima, it made me think there was no excuse for me to hide who I was, especially if there was someone I wanted to be with, too." Bakugou scoffs. "You're just copying me, is that it? I made coming out fashionable?" Yaoyorozu lifts her chin, a sparkle in her eye. "No, Bakugou-san. I'm not copying you. I'm inspired by you." Bakugou blinks and sits back, for once no clever response ready on his tongue. It's an interesting distinction. Bakugou hates being intimidated, but he doesn't want to be admired? "Anyway," Yaoyorozu says, "what's done is done now. I wasn't pretending just for the sake of the video. Your song is a celebration of love, of embracing things even when they're difficult or scary, and I want to embrace who I am." "Yo, Momo," Ashido says, sighing dreamily. "You're the best." Yaoyorozu laughs, cheeks coloring. "No, of course I'm not. Bakugou's the one who paved the way, after all, and Kirishima-san." He's never thought about that. But hadn't Amajiki said something similar too? Kirishima had never set out to inspire people, or be a trendsetter. He just wanted to express his own feelings, live his own life. But the feeling blooming in his chest is hopeful and comforting. Being in such company isn't a bad thing. They walk home together, Ashido and Kaminari rushing ahead, Jiro and Yaoyorozu lagging behind, talking quietly with their fingers intertwined. "About fucking time," Bakugou mutters, as he and Kirishima walk side by side. "Oh, yeah," Kirishima says, smacking his fist against his other palm. "You called this like ages ago, didn't you?" Bakugou rolls his eyes. "Ponytail's so obvious." "I think it's nice," Kirishima says. "They'll be good for each other." The group leaves Bakugou and Kirishima at Bakugou's apartment. Bakugou's got an early interview tomorrow, and Kirishima's sleeping over. They crawl into bed together, Kirishima laying flat on his back, with Bakugou curled up at his side. "Good night," Kirishima sighs, exhaustion settling over him. "Night," Bakugou says back, half asleep. "Love you." Bakugou's breathing evens out a moment later, but Kirishima stays awake for a long time, staring at the ceiling. If love is about being brave, why can't he say 3 simple words? Shinso sends a rough cut of the video to Midnight Records, and Riot gathers around to watch. The video starts at the 4 of them, playing music on the rooftop, Kirishima and Ashido facing each other, viewed in profile as they begin to sing. Kaminari and Jiro face each other as well, drum beats and bass line alternating. They look for all appearances like they're on top of the world, surrounded by clear sky and distant buildings. Interspersed with their performance are shots of Yaoyorozu and Bakugou. They stand on the edges of the rooftop, looking out over the city uncertainly. Yaoyorozu presses her hands against her heart, and Bakugou hugs himself. They walk past each other, 2 people feeling the same emotion, but not seeing each other at all. Then, as the music picks up to its climax, They both turn and fall from the roof's edge. As Kirishima and Aishido's voice drifts over them, they fall down through the sky, expressions at once peaceful and determined. Back on the rooftop where Riot is playing, Kaminari bangs out an increasingly frantic beat. The ground shakes with it, and as he slams against the drums, the roof caves in, and Riot tumbles through the wreckage, still playing music and singing. They've landed in the middle of a dance party, and dusting themselves off, they get caught up in their own sound. Aishido and Kaminari dance against each other, as Jiro and Kirishima step round and round in circles. Yaoyorozu approaches from one side, Bakugou from another. All the while, the lyrics say, "If love's worth it, you'll find a way. If love's worth it, you'll take the plunge. Someone's gonna push you there. Someone's gonna dare you to go further than you've ever gone. Someone's gonna set your soul on fire." Yaoyorozu reaches for Jiro. Bakugou grabs Kirishima. They kiss as the music plays, as the pastel lights flash over them, as they revel in this celebration of love and taking chances.